Hey everyone, this is Russ from Retro Game Core. So if you saw my earlier RGB10 review, you know that I actually really like this device. I wasn't expecting to love it as much as I do now, but one of the things I didn't like about it was its original analog stick. It was just a pain to use and it was so cheap and ugly. Well, thankfully, another YouTuber named Sonic Love gave me the idea of using a PS Vita analog stick instead, and it fits perfectly, it's very easy to install, and it costs less than $10. And I have to say, this really elevated this device. It turned one of my least favorite features into one of my absolutely favorite features on this device now. Look at how beautiful it is. Not only that, it has a little bit of grippiness to the analog stick itself. It makes it super easy and fun to play with. So if you have an RGB10, I strongly recommend that you check this video out and see if this is something you want to do as well. It's super easy to do. You can knock it out in about 5-10 minutes. Okay, so I bought my PS Vita analog stick over eBay, but there are so many different places that sell this. And they sell these in white and black. I really like the white one because it really fits with the design of my original device. The RGB10 reminds me of a Nintendo Switch Lite, and so I really kind of want to play up that aesthetic, and I think a white analog stick does a much better job. So I'm going to take off the cap of the original analog stick, and you can see it here. It's just terrible. This is by far the worst analog stick I've seen on a handheld device so far. So just to be safe, I'm going to take out my SD card. And then you have these little plastic rubber cap things here. You can take them off with a pair of tweezers, or you can just grab something sharp and pull them out. They're pretty easy to take out, actually. One of the nice things about these is they're not sticky or anything, they're just put in there with pressure, so they're easy to get in and out. It's hard to see in here, but they're just regular Phillips head screws here. Now surprisingly, I've had a really hard time getting this case open. It uses a clip to hold it together and it's latched in there really tightly. So you can see here I'm trying for a while and then I had to slide my finger across and it exploded on me. It scared the crap out of me when I first opened this thing up. You can see these clips are pretty significant here. And that's what was preventing me from being able to open the device. So kudos to PowKiddy for keeping it very tightly in there, but at the same time it was a bit of a pain to open up. So I'm just going to take off all my shoulder buttons as well as my power and reset buttons just so I don't mix them up. Okay, so here's the board here. It's actually a very simple device. I like how nice and easy to understand this device is. And as you can see, it's running that RK3326 chipset that's found in the RG351P and other devices. Now typically I would recommend that you remove the battery cable so that way you don't have any shorts or anything, but this is such a simple install, I don't even think it's worth that trouble. So all you have to do is flip the switch here and then pull out the ribbon for the analog stick. And then it has just two screws right here, also Phillips head screws. That's it, we've disassembled it in 10 seconds. And here you go, here's that analog stick. And man, this thing is just ridiculous. Look at how sharp it is. Like I mentioned in my review, you could cut a steak dinner with this, and maybe I'll do that later. And here's that Vita analog stick. It just feels so nice and professional. And honestly, for $8, I think it's totally worth it. Now all you have to do at this point is just push that ribbon cable in. Just push it as far as it'll go. Don't worry about getting it perfect. It's pretty forgiving. And once you have it seated, just go ahead and reapply those screws. So if you want to make it easier on yourself, you can just elevate it. So for example, I'm using a deck of playing cards here just to make it easier when I'm screwing it in. And there you go, it's installed. Now one thing I did notice is that the ribbon is a little bit loose. I think it's a little bit longer than the original one. And I was a little worried that it was going to touch the battery or maybe cause some issues, but I think it's just fine. Even if you push it as far as it'll go, it's still going to have just a little bit of ribbon sticking out, but I don't think it's going to actually affect performance. Okay, so let's reapply these buttons, and like I've mentioned before, I really like these shoulder buttons. They're nice and flush with the device, and they just feel really good when you press on them. Okay, and then add the power and reset buttons again. And so I'm just going to snap the case closed before I screw everything back together, just to make sure everything works okay. And moment of truth here, and look at that, it works perfectly. Let's test it out on a game. So here we are with Contra, it's working beautifully. I know earlier I said I love these Vita analog sticks, but it's something you have to feel to believe. And maybe it's because this stick is a replacement for such a terrible analog stick, but it is night and day. This is like the best $8 I've spent in a long time. And honestly, this analog stick, it's the price of like a Five Guys cheeseburger, right? And that's only going to make you happy for 10 minutes. This thing's going to make you happy for years. Okay, just a couple more shots here just to show you how it looks in the case itself. It's such a nice match. I'm really happy with this. And you can see it barely sticks out over the case itself. It's still completely pocketable. And given the fact that the RGB10 is a very pocketable device, this just adds to that. Okay, enough gushing, let's go ahead and put this thing back together. So I'm going to reinsert the screws, and then I'm going to add those plastic caps again. So my last piece of advice before I wrap up this video, figure out where your greatest enemy lives. And then also figure out if they own a PS Vita. And if they do, go and sneak into their house in the night, grab that PS Vita, and very slowly and carefully swap out that PS Vita analog stick for this original RGB10 one. Honestly, I can't think of a worse thing you could do to your very worst enemy than to give them this analog stick in replacement of a PS Vita. Alright everyone, that's it for this video. Please do not break into anybody's actual houses. I don't care if you have an enemy, just don't do any breaking and entering, and don't say that I told you to do it. If you happen to want this terrible analog stick, just let me know in the comments below. I'd be happy to sell it to you for $8. I hope you enjoyed this video. Be sure to like and subscribe if you found it helpful, and we will see you next time. Happy gaming.